week 6, we're already, I guess nearly a third of the way through the season.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. After this week, we'll be 1/3 through the season.
Well, even like college football is already in week 7, and
college football is really halfway done.
High school football will have their state playoffs soon, in whatever state you're in. Like
that's depressing.
I know. That's what the thought that came to me today. I was like, we waited all year, and it's already starting to fly by.
Yeah, I feel like we're just starting to get our feet under us a little bit, and we're getting a rhythm here with the weekly previews. But so to kind of dive right into it, first on the docket, let's start with the NFC West, because I think this is kind of the most open-ended topic that we discussed kind of in our text back and forth. I have no gauge on this division.
Very weird.
And and that's why I think the 49ers should still be the favorite. In your opinion, who should be the favorite to be like on top at the end of the year?
Well, it's got to be the 49ers until it's not.
But they have concerns.
There's a lot of concerns about the 49ers. You have to wonder about Christian McCaffrey's health beyond his IR stint, or beyond the 6 weeks that he was going to be designated for it. Or he was designated, I should say. Yeah. Seattle looks like they're coming back to earth, which is not that surprising, but they're still in first place.
Yeah.
Arizona blows out LA 1 week, gets destroyed by Washington, and then wins a great game on the road in San Francisco. So you don't know what to make of them.
Yep.
And the Rams, even, like, they've had every single one of their games has been, well, besides the Cardinals game, has been by 1 score.
They should have won the Detroit game. They probably, in my opinion, should have won the Green Bay game.
And they had a shot to win the Bears game.
Yeah. Well, I take that back. They really shouldn't have won the Green Bay game, but they had a shot.
It was similar. Yeah. Both. It was actually played out very similar, both games.
Yeah, the Bears game and the Packers game, you could tell, I think Chicago and Green Bay were both the better teams in those games.
Yes.
But LA is also playing with like half their roster.
And if they have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
And who knows if they're even in the situation where they need a last-minute touchdown drive.
And not to even ignore, the skill players are obviously important, but they've been decimated on their offensive line.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, so I think overall, that's the team. If they can, I think the big outcome with this Thursday night game, we'll get into it in a little bit, between San Francisco and Seattle, to me, that's the game of the week. I mean, a lot of people would probably argue that the real game of the week is probably Commanders Ravens, but that's an interconference game. It's not necessarily going to mean as much at the end of the year for either team, in my opinion, compared. Like, I think this 49ers Seattle game is going to completely dictate the rest of the year in the NFC West, because if San Francisco can win this game, they'll be first place pretty much at 3-3, right?
Yep.
But most importantly for the Rams, like, you're still 2 games behind the first place team in the division, and you beat the 49ers already. So, like, that way, you just win a couple games, get your guys back. 2 games is not a deficit that's like impossible to overcome. Now, most people would think like, oh yeah, starting 1-4, very, very unlikely that you come back from that. But I think if there's any scenario where a 1-4 team could make a run at the playoffs, it's actually the Rams, but they have to absolutely win this week. My number one case, and this is what was so peculiar to me about the 49ers, is I want to believe that they're still one of the best teams in the NFL. And my main reason for this is Brock Purdy is playing even better than he did last year. And you could argue he deserved the MVP last year. Like, he at least deserved consideration. He's the second best quarterback in terms of PFF grade so far this season. We have 5 games sample size. I mean, that's not nothing at this point. And he was 7th last year. I think it's safe to say now Brock Purdy is a top end NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
That's going to be making $300 million soon. He's playing out of his mind. And if you look at the San Francisco season, I get it. 100% the Vikings loss. They got outplayed in that game, but the Vikings look like one of the best teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
The Rams game was a complete fluke. Like, they should not have lost that game, and I would argue they probably should have won the Arizona game too.
Yeah.
That's their 3 losses. I think this team is arguably a couple of bounces away from being 4-1 with their only loss on the road against the best, arguably the best team, and I think they might be the best team by DVOA in the NFL right now, the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think the only team I really don't like that much is the team that's in first place. Is Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle is they're staring that 3-0 start down the drain right now, because if they don't win on Thursday and tomorrow night, they're going to be back to where, well, this is how we expected the year to go, sort of a deal,
and if you look at like Seattle, I mean, their wins are against teams that, like, rookie Bo Nix in his first game, the Giants should have been an easy win, and they got really thorough. They got their butt kicked in that game. I'll be honest with you. Like, I never felt like they had a chance to win.
No.
They technically had a chance to tie the game, but like the Giants really should have run away with that game. But it's that division's weird, so that's obviously one that we want to focus on. What topic do you want to do next? We have 2 AFC East topics that we want to.
Yeah, I want to talk about it being Groundhog's Day again. The Jets are a disaster.
I'm going to say this about the Jets. It is so freaking frustrating that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles last year, because it made me think about it. Like, the Packers probably end up with a top 15 pick. Like,
yeah,
we knew Saleh was not it. The Hackett hire was simply just
to appease Rodgers.
He's not qualified to call an offense. Everybody forgets in Green Bay, he didn't call the offense. He was effectively like Matt LaFleur's like assistant.
Yeah.
Like, he helped implement the game plan, but like LaFleur called plays in Green Bay, and really Rodgers called plays in Green Bay anyway. The Jets, I think it's just a sign that no matter how much talent you accumulate, there's more to team building and success in the league than just having a bunch of names. I would argue that they have some of the most talent in all of football. If you look at their defense, it's stacked with players. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are great skill players. Their offensive line, they've invested a lot of money and resources with draft picks, with free agency money, like with Tyron Smith. Elijah Vera Tucker is a first-round pick. But for whatever reason, it just feels disconnected all the time. And you have a quarterback that, going to be in the Hall of Fame. Still doesn't feel – it feels like a step above what they had with Zach Wilson. Like, Zach Wilson was bad, but there's no chemistry on this team. It just feels –
yeah.
It feels like I'm watching the 2022 Packers again when I watch the Jets. And that's the last sample size we had of Rodgers. So should we even be surprised about that? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. But yeah, even like I was listening to 670 The Score here in Chicago the other day, and they were saying it was the day Saleh got fired. So that was Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they said, if Rodgers was like 34 years old, you might be like, okay, maybe I see how this plays out. Maybe you get, some top of the line head coach next year that wants to come in and, work with Rodgers for 4 or 5 years, maybe longer. Rodgers might be at the end of the road here. I mean, in all honesty.
Yeah. Totally possible.
They gave up, like, now they're almost at a point like they might as well go trade for Devontae Adams, because what do they have to lose?
I think Joe Douglas would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Because I think he knows that they don't win. If they don't make the playoffs, he's out. I mean, we already saw Saleh get fired.
Yeah.
I think that I'm kind of surprised Douglas wasn't let go along with Saleh, but I think that move will happen. The only way I don't think it happens, I don't think it happens only if Woody Johnson just vetoes it, because like that was like his one thing about the Rodgers trade is they were not going to send us an unprotected first round pick.
Yeah.
it was not going to happen. Like they were like, if he gets hurt or they don't hit performance standards or whatever, like it's a second, not a first. And that was actually really smart by, I think it was actually Woody Johnson that was really behind that, because he didn't want to be in a situation like Carolina got in, where they're giving up the number 1 overall pick because of an aggressive trade they made. Like, you don't want to be caught with your pants down. And then Chicago gets a free franchise quarterback. So I think, to me, I think they might make that Devontae move. I don't know what difference it makes. I don't really that the Jets, that I don't envy anybody that is going to take over that franchise, because like, what are they going to be left with? Like, eventually you're going to have to pay your young stars with Gardner and Wilson and Hall, right? And those guys are going to they're cheap now, but they're not going to be cheap in 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have a quarterback. And your solution to win games this year is go and trade for a 31-year-old wide receiver that has been disgruntled the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or really last 2 years. So I don't know. It's a lesson to everybody that stop focusing so much on just player acquisition all the time, and like kind of look at the record of the coaches, look at the record of the franchises. Like, what kind of moves do they make? Are they planning ahead? And I don't see the Chiefs, the Packers, the 49ers, they don't make these type of a lot of the times they make moves that people are critical of, and then it actually ends up working in their favor long term. And the Jets have like done the opposite so many times, and where's it gotten them? They have one of the worst records of the last 15 years, really, ever since Rex Ryan got them to the playoffs in 2010.
Yeah,
it's just, what a disaster.
Yeah, it's like I said, it feels like Groundhog's Day, because it just keeps happening and happening and happening with them. It's I don't know what to make of it.
Well, I think I liked your theory that you were right. It wasn't Doug Peterson, though. That it was like whoever had their loss out of London would be the guy that got fired. It was just Saleh.
Who saw that coming, really?
Yeah. But, I mean, it makes sense, because now they're on a bye. They can get their interim. Is it Ulbrich that's going to be their
the D coordinator.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's I don't know. But I think, thankfully, this will be the last time I think we talk about the Jets, unless they make some noise and actually win some games. But
yeah,
I don't know if that'll happen. And then lastly, staying in the AFC East. And speaking of kind of inept decisions, because I don't really understand this move, you should have done it last week if you were going to do it in October.
It was your shot.
Because at least you could say that you were trying to get to 2-3 and maybe salvage your season. But the Patriots are starting Drake May. The main question that you had, is it the right decision to play him this week, or would you have waited, or should he have already been playing?
He absolutely should have already been playing. He should have been playing as of last week, maybe even earlier. But to roll,
should have played after that Jets game.
See, the problem is a lot of offense, or a lot of teams, when they don't start their rookie right away, or they don't have I don't want to say don't start their rookie right away. When they don't have a plan in place right away for their rookie quarterback, they end up going to the rookie when the offense is already doing bad, which is the last time you want to go to your, you want to at least give your rookie a bit of momentum. Okay, we got you to this point, you take over the reins now. Not we could hardly score on the Miami Dolphins the other night or the other afternoon. Here, go play the Texans. And then you're going to get the Jets soon. And then you're going to have to play on the road in Tennessee against that defensive line. And then you have to go to Chicago. What? What are you thinking?
And I agree with you. And the way the Patriots offense has played, and I'm big on PFF grades because they at least categorize individual performance. It does, at least they're looking at pass rush win rate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you look at their roster offensively right now, only one player has above a 70 PFF grade that has at least 50 snaps on the season. and that's Antonio Gibson. Literally every other player is either 69 or below, which is considered like 60. The high 60s is like average. So this is a well below average offense. You have more guys in the 50s, which are mostly like the rookies, like Jalen Polk's 51, KJ Osborne's 53.5. Tyquan Thornton's still bad. Breaking news. Ramondre Stevenson is just a guy. Like, there's not, like, their offensive line's really been poor. Even David Andrews hasn't played well. I think all in all, like, this team as a whole isn't performing, and that's why Jacoby Brissett can't score. Like, we know if Jacoby Brissett has like a supporting cast, he can at least put up serviceable performances and like keep you in a game.
Yeah.
He's not doing that. So if anything, like, this should have been a sign that I wouldn't be playing Drake May. And if I was going to play him early in the season, I would have done it in a game against Miami where, like, all I needed was 15 points to probably win the game.
Right.
And you're now going to throw him up against a pack of wolves with the Texans, who are coming off a huge win where they just shut down Josh Allen.
Yeah. They made Josh Allen throw for 30% completion.
You're going to put I think they're putting a lot of pressure on him to perform well, because he's going to have to lift them up this week. And it's not going to get any easier because, like, you know, we'll get into it, but like, let's say Jacksonville, you know, they do perform better in London than they do in the States. We've talked about this. Let's say Jacksonville wins their next two. So that, like, or Jacksonville wins this week. Then they get Jacksonville again in London, right? So that'll be a team that's desperate to get back into like some sort of playoff contention, right? And then when they come back to the States, they're going to be playing the Jets, who are probably also playing for their season and maybe playing inspired football with a new coach. I don't know. I just think there's not really an easy game to kind of get him acclimated. If there was a game on the schedule, it was last week. And like you said, I think arguably the biggest thing is, to me, it just feels like they're setting him up for failure. He could struggle. But unless he has so much talent that he does lift up, but like that's a lot to ask any rookie quarterback.
Yes.
But we don't know that. He could come out and be Justin Herbert, and just, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who knows? So they know more than we do about what he looks like in practice, but I'm skeptical.
It's puzzling. At the very least, to say it's puzzling.
And, you know, the argument too is, if he's looking like Justin Herbert in practice, then why the hell isn't he starting? Like, why did you fall to 1-4 before making the decision if you had a guy that was a starting quarterback in the NFL? Like, yeah, like a good quarterback. So I don't know. We'll find out. I guess that'll be a game I'm very interested to see this weekend. With I don't expect it to be super close, and we'll talk a little bit about that game more. But let's dive into the. Do you have any other thoughts on this move?
No, I just I feel bad for Drake May.
Yeah. I know you were super high on him. I think he's got a lot of physical talent. I had some questions about kind of like his college production a little bit, but anyway, opening game of the weekend, I think, is the biggest game of the weekend, and that is the Seahawks hosting the 49ers. I think it's a 3.5 point line. The 49ers are the favorites on the road. They have not won a game away from home this year. I'll let you kind of give your take on this game, but it's an absolutely crucial game for both teams, in my opinion. The Seahawks could lose their third game in a row, and their season could be dovetailing into the ground. The 49ers, it feels like if you lose another division game, you're just – because they'd be 0-3 if they lose this game in the NFC West. It would almost bury their chances of winning the NFC West if this happens. So give me your take. Like, what do you think happens in this one?
Yeah. The 49ers are one of those teams that we've been kind of just waiting on to get right. And I don't know if this is the game that you say like they actually get right on, because they've had a few close losses, as we've said, but yeah, they still haven't been wildly impressive yet at all. Like, their most impressive win was against the team we were just talking about, the Patriots. So I do tend to think that the 49ers are going to win this game, and I think they probably do win by at least a touchdown. I have to think of a score yet. But yeah, no, it does feel like a game for Seattle that I think was one of the things that when they were 3-0, and we were talking about the 3-0 teams in the league or the surprise 3-0 teams, and obviously Seattle was one of them, but they were the first team that I felt was going to fall off. The team I least believed in, if that is the right way of saying that.
And they one of those wins was a close. Even the Denver game was close, but the close game against the Patriots now, in hindsight, that looks really bad.
Yeah, it's I can't see Seattle winning. This seems like a game that we're going to look back in a few weeks and be, or not just a game, but just the start of their season. We're going to look back and be like, man, they started 3-0. Remember that? They're 4-6 now or whatever. I'm not looking ahead at their schedule, but they seem like they screwed the pooch at any chance they had of being real. And I know they're technically still hanging around, but you can't lose to the Giants at home and expect that on a short week you're going to be able to beat the best team in your division, regardless if you're at home or not. I think Geno Smith will do his best to keep them in the game. Distributing the ball to the weapons that they do have. But this is a game I think the 49ers kind of flex their muscle a little bit. I'll take San Francisco 27-19 to win this game.
Yeah, I got a kind of similar. I have the 49ers 27-17. The main point I want to make about the 49ers is they have 3 of their losses, but it's a combined excuse me, I had it earlier. It's 3 losses by a combined 10 points. So if you look at like their point differential, it's a lot better. And I think point differential is one of the key, like, especially once you get later into the season, it's like one of the key indicators of great teams versus decent teams in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers point differential is a lot better than a 2-3 team, in my opinion. Like, they've lost 3 really close games. 2 of them I mentioned earlier in the Rams and the Cardinals game. They should have won. They had ample opportunities to close them out, and they didn't. So I think the 49ers, I think just being as desperate as they are for a win in the division, I have a hard time seeing them actually falling to 0-3 inside the division. I'm going to take them 27-17.
You know, I did hear a stat before we move on.
Yeah.
I heard a stat the other day that Kyle Shanahan has 18 losses as a 49ers head coach where his team had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter.
And it's so weird to think about because his identity is like his effective run games. Like you would think that would be the kind of team that closes games out, and they don't. It's just, I don't know. And he's a smart coach. And like you can tell his teams are well prepared and everything's well thought out. It's just crazy that
he's kind of like a young Andy Reid in some ways.
That's a great comparison because I don't ever look at Kyle Shanahan as a bad coach.
No.
Like he mismanages some things sometimes, but at the same
time, he became available to any, like there would be 28 teams ready to fire their head coach so they could get Kyle Shanahan in the building.
The point I like to make too is like good coaches actually get criticized more often because they're in games to be criticized for.
Yes. And the expectation, because they've set the expectation, is higher.
Yeah. Like, you know, Mike McCarthy's a great example. I'm a big Mike McCarthy defender, but it's like a big thing about him is that he blows playoff. Like he screws up playoff games or he mismanages. It's like, well, he got deep in the playoffs in the first place consistently. You know, the only coach that we can say was pretty much flawless outside of one Super Bowl that he screwed up again with Super Bowl, I guess it was 52, I think, or 51. No, it was 52 against the Eagles with Belichick. But like, he's an anomaly even. And Andy Reid, it took 20 years for him to kind of shed that reputation. So, but yeah, I just, with this game specifically, I just have a really hard time seeing San Francisco not win this. And to me, they're a much better team than Seattle is. Jacksonville and Chicago. Trevor Lawrence looked a lot better last week, but the Colts defense sucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about like that performance. Like, was it real or was it just they got a break? But I mean, he had the most yards he's ever had in his career. And that's a huge improvement from watching games where he had like 20 yards passing at the half. So I'll give credit to Jacksonville there. But Chicago's defense is a much bigger step up from the Colts. And I don't know how real that performance against Indianapolis, a team that they actually own, like they just do not lose to the Colts.
Yeah, they've won 10 in a row in Jacksonville against them.
Yeah, even when they were 1-15, their one victory.
They were 2-14, and both victories were against the Colts.
Yeah, because Urban Meyer, did Urban Meyer ever get a win against them? I don't think so. I think it was the interim coach.
Yeah, it must have been the interim coach.
It was the interim coach, and then in 2020, with I guess it was Doug Marrone. Like they were horrible with Minshew, but he still got a win. So overall, though, Jacksonville, I'm not buying in yet. I think Chicago is also on a trajectory where I don't want to jinx them for you, but I think like they to me are playing like a good quality football team. Like they look like a playoff team to me. I on paper, I think Chicago's better, so I'm going to pick them to win. I do think. What is the number? I assume y'all are favored. What's that?
Wasn't it 2.5 when we were talking the other night? It's 2 right now. That's
closer than I would think.
Yeah.
With how different each team's performed, I'm like way ahead here. Yeah, so Chicago's 2.5-point favorite. This Chicago's a home team, technically. I think they got it right. I have Chicago winning by a field goal. But the reason why I think it's appropriate to be in that basically that margin of error of a field goal is because Jacksonville historically is very, very good in London.
They're better in London than they are in America, but they're not very, very good.
But has Trevor Lawrence lost a game in London?
Well, they're 6-5 in London overall.
But they beat Buffalo there last year, didn't they?
I think they did, yes.
Yeah, I think with since Lawrence has taken over in Jacksonville, like he's actually really good there. I don't know how much that actually means. I also think these games are just weird, and that's the only reason why I think it's close. But I'm still picking Chicago to win. I think Chicago is better than Jacksonville. That's my take on this game.
Yeah. Things have been moving in the right direction for the Bears the last couple weeks. The offense, I know they were playing Carolina last week, but it was a get healthy game. And for the first, really, I can't say just with Carolina because it did start to show a little bit towards the end of the first half against the Rams. It finally seemed like the offense started sequencing plays together.
Yeah.
They, as we talked about last week, and they continued to do it, get DeAndre Swift the ball out in the open. DJ Morse, they stopped having him run screens, and they got him downfield, which is where he's a bigger threat. Who'd have thought? So things started, and Caleb is just looking a lot more comfortable than he was a few weeks ago.
No surprise, he's getting acclimated to the league. It takes time.
And then defensively, I think now where I think Jacksonville is going to have a lot of success on Sunday is running the ball. The Bears defense, for some reason, they've almost adopted like the new modern NFL approach to defense where, or at least what the sabermetrics people would like to say, is that they kind of don't care about the run defense.
That's always been kind of an Eberflus thing too, hasn't it?
Well, last year they had the best run defense in football, which is the weird thing about this. They've struggled with the run at times this year. And Tank Bigsby is a very good running back.
Which is weird because like he was one of the league's worst running backs last year. By every metric. And then this year he's like one of the league's best.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that. So I'm thinking Tank is going to get his own at a few times on Sunday. But I think the Bears defense, They've developed a better pass rush than we thought they would have. Darrell Taylor was a great pickup the Bears made in the preseason. And they've been able to get to the quarterback without having to bring much extra pressure. And even when they do bring extra pressure, it does get home. And they just have enough guys in that secondary. They are going to be playing without Brisker on Sunday, but the Bears actually have pretty good depth in their secondary, so I don't think it's that big of a loss. And that concussion really wasn't his fault, but he does need to learn how to, tackle properly. But I think the Bears do have enough. I think they're a better team than Jacksonville. I also think the fact that they've been there since now, this is also like one of those, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The Bears have been in London since Monday. Jacksonville's supposed to fly out tomorrow. But
they shouldn't have a problem. Jacksonville is not necessarily in the path of the storm. They have some bad weather.
They're going to get some bad weather though. But even then, I'm sure things have been a little bit different this week with them in the storm, just in terms of hunkering down, preparing for it. But
Jacksonville's so far north though. You're almost in Georgia.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the storm necessarily plays a part. I agree with you though, that I think the Bears leaving on Monday is that's the way I would do it. But
yeah,
I think the reason why Jacksonville probably left Thursday is because they have to spend 2 weeks there, not one. So
yes,
I think they're they don't want to be away from their homes and their families that long.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might wash away a little bit of the London advantage. But I do think ultimately Jacksonville's going to keep this close because of 2 reasons. Like I said, I think there is the London aspect. And I think number 2, or you mentioned, I only have 3 reasons. Number 2, you mentioned the run game. I think if Bigsby gets the opportunities, he's so much more efficient than Etienne is. Yeah. And that helped Trevor immensely because suddenly the play action game worked up.
Exactly. If it's a close game, Jacksonville is going to have their shot to win it. If the Bears get out to an early lead like they did on last Sunday, and Jacksonville has to throw to catch up, I like the Bears' chances even better.
If they can get to where they can utilize Brian Thomas downfield like they did last week, that they have a shot. And the last thing too is, how are the Bears going to handle success? That's the other test, because that's the next phase of growing in terms of the Bears are 3-2. They're, if things are going really well, it seems like they're growing offensively. How do they handle a challenge from a desperate team? Because Jacksonville's got to win this, and Peterson's coaching for his job. That'll be I think that's the only thing that I'm hesitant on picking against Jacksonville. I'm still going to pick Chicago because I think if I'm just comparing the teams themselves, Chicago's better. But these are human beings, right? Mm-hmm. My main criticism of Jacksonville, why I really don't think they should win this game, is they will do anything to lose games. They should have run away with that Colts game. They had a 2-possession lead. And
they let legend Flacco.
So that's the other thing is I think Eberflus, who I won't say this very often, he has the coaching advantage in this game. So overall, I think Chicago is better. I think 3 is a perfect number in this game. So
I have 27-20 Bears.
Yeah. So, but we both think 1 score, but you think it's a touchdown. I think it's a field goal. Big game here for both teams because Arizona has kind of clawed their way back a little bit with the big win last week at San Francisco.
Which Arizona team is going to show up?
I hope the bad one.
Oh, yes.
I'm hoping the bad one. And a great question is which Green Bay team shows up?
Yeah, that's the other part.
Which Jordan Love shows up? Is it the one we saw in the first half of the Minnesota game, or is it the one we saw in the second half of both the Rams and the Vikings game? That's, I think, the most frustrating thing. I'll keep kind of quick on the Packers. And you're going to hear me say this every week. If the Packers do what they're supposed to do and they don't have silly turnovers and penalties, they can beat any team in the league. They're that talented. Mm-hmm. But they get in their own way. And they're a young team. That's going to happen. I get it. But just apples to apples, I think Green Bay is a much better team.
Oh,
Like if I'm looking
absolutely.
at
Much
teams,
better. A to Z. They're a
I
better
like
team.
Gannon. I like Gannon as a coach, but I think LaFleur has the experience, and he's really impressed us the last year and a half, right? Uh, I'm going to take Green Bay to win by a touchdown. I'm going to go 31-24. My bold prediction is Xavier McKinney gets another interception because that seems to
Is
be the
that
only
bold anymore?
that's the only consistent thing in the NFL now is
Right,
Xavier
yeah.
McKinney makes an
Death
interception.
taxes and
That is actually an amazing stat, by the way. It's 5
oh
straight
yeah.
games like with the pick, like that's unheard of, and like
Yeah,
his interceptions are
that's like
kind of
high
random.
school stuff, like where
Yeah,
you just have a safety who's unbelievable and he picks off every high school quarterback pass. That
yeah.
doesn't happen in the NFL.
No, I mean quarterbacks don't even throw that many interceptions. That's the
No,
crazy
no.
part. So I think overall Green Bay's a better team, but if Jordan Love turns the ball over, just stupid stuff happens. I think Arizona could. So I definitely not, you know, I'm definitely not dismissing. But I think LA, I think is just as good as the Cardinals are. So I'm going to take Green Bay at home, 31-24.
I'll take Green Bay. I'll bump it up a little higher. I think they're going to want to improve on since the last time that they were at home, and obviously Love hasn't had a win at home yet this year because he missed the one game that they did win. I think it's going to be 34-24, so pretty close to you, but a 2-score difference. The only thing I have to say about Love, and I think he's a very, very good quarterback. At times last year, like his mannerisms, he almost did kind of remind you of Rodgers, right? Like some of the things that he did, like you even remember some of the things that like they would like show like a clip by clip, like, oh, this was Rodgers doing this and whatever year. And then here's Love doing something really close. And everybody's like, oh my God, it's Rodgers again. He's reminding me more of another Packers quarterback
Brett Favre.
recently. He's reminding me a lot of
That
I think he
interception
might
in
have
the end
jinxed
zone. I'm
himself
just like,
wearing that jersey.
yeah, that interception that he threw. I mean, I get it. You gotta you want to avoid the safety. At least he had enough awareness. You gotta throw it. Actually, you gotta get the ball out of bounds. Like, yeah. But to his credit, he balled the hell out in the
But see,
second
that's
half.
Favre. That's like a Favre thing. Like
Yeah.
he
But
make a
when you're
boneheaded
playing,
play.
yeah, but when you're playing the Vikings or you're playing the Lions, you can't let that happen.
No.
Like
So that's going to be something he has to work on. And in fairness, he was a high interception guy in college. He might just be he might be more Favre than Rodgers in that way. I still think Green Bay is a much better team than Arizona, and I think Green Bay will be fine.
yeah.
But that is something I think to monitor as the year goes on and bigger games come into play.
Yeah, for sure. Next game, we'll kind of go through these because this one's not that super interesting.
Let me just think of a score real quick.
Yeah, I'll give you my score. I think Tennessee gets their second win in a row coming off a bye. I'm going to take them 20-17.
I was actually going to say Colts 20-17.
Okay, so we both think these are two. We'll keep it quick, but the Colts are a bad team on a backup quarterback. I think
I like Joe Flacco.
They are a better team with Joe Flacco, actually.
Yeah, I've always liked Joe Flacco.
But I think Richardson does need to eventually get back and play because I think it's crucial that he goes through kind of his lumps. He hasn't done it yet because he wasn't healthy last year. He's not healthy this year. That's a concern for the Colts. I think the Titans, they actually have a lot of talent, and I think they're playing pretty well. Levis just has to get out of his own way. Like, if they can do that, they really should have won the Bears game week 1. And just every week since, he makes these just ridiculously boneheaded decisions.
Yeah.
But they had a strong win against a bad Miami team. I think they win at home this week. So I'm taking the Titans. You're taking the Colts. That's the first game we disagree on, and nobody cares. We talked about Drake May already. With the Texans going into New England. We talked about that. My main question for you is, like, after last week, is it safe to say that the Texans are right there with the Ravens and the Chiefs in the game?
They don't have they have the offensive firepower, but we haven't seen it yet.
I just feel like I'm missing something with this team. I don't like, and I think that it's the talent's there. We know
Yeah,
Stroud's good. We know the receivers are good.
we
They
Joe
have.
Mixon's a good running back.
I agree with you. I haven't seen it yet. Maybe this is the week, and that's actually what I'm going to predict here. I think they really put it to the Patriots this week. I'm going 31-10.
Yeah, I mean, if any week, I mean, they're probably going to get the chances to score. I'm sure they'll get a couple extra possessions with May playing quarterback and with it being his first game. The Patriots have only scored 5 touchdowns this year. I don't think they get their 6th touchdown this Sunday. I'm going to go 28-9.
So it's a good start for the Drake May era.
Really,
in our opinion. Watch us be wrong and Drake May throws 4 touchdowns.
That would be, I wouldn't know what to say anymore about this league.
Next game on the list, Tampa is at New Orleans. Obviously, Tampa's been displaced pretty much this entire week because of Hurricane Milton, and they're in New Orleans. So, so that's the distraction that they're probably going to be dealing with. The Saints are a desperate team on a short week. They've lost 3 straight after starting 2-0. Do you remember when we were making jokes that the Saints are the best offense since the 99 Rams?
Yeah, that's the Bill Simmons tagline.
Yeah, and that was really stupid because that's not the case.
I can't wait till DVOA corrects itself after the opponent adjustments come in because they're still they're the 4th best team in DVOA still. They're clearly not the 4th best team in football.
Tampa has to be killing themselves that they lost that Falcons game, though.
They
had that game. It was there, and they let Atlanta just walk down the field on them. I think it exposed a little bit of their defense in that game.
Yeah,
I think it just historically, and this goes back to since Todd Bowles has been in Tampa. For whatever reason, the Saints play really well against the Bucs, even when Brady was there.
Yeah,
I'm going to take the Saints in a close defensive battle. I'm gonna go 23-17. I guess that's not super defensive, but I think the Saints are desperate. I'm gonna give them a win here.
It's close to the total, I'm sure. What is the total? It is 41.5. So technically that would be hitting the under.
Yeah, not by an extreme amount.
Yeah, not by an extreme amount. I'm also taking the Saints. I think it's going to be 24-21. Well, it's hard to say the way they played Kansas City because Kansas City obviously just doesn't care until January rolls around and they're still undefeated.
They won that game easily.
Yes.
It felt like the Chiefs sleepwalked a little bit during that game.
I think Dennis Allen always has speaking of New Orleans always playing Tampa well, Dennis Allen always has a good game against Tampa.
And Marshawn Lattimore always plays Mike Evans well. That's that's the thing I'm looking out for. Is are we going to get a fight? Because we always do.
Well, as you said, not just I think Tampa is kind of desperate too to show that how can they and that's a long week and a half to sit on that game. I'm gonna roll with New Orleans. I think the Saints defense is gonna force Baker into a couple turnovers. And
that would make things very interesting in the NFC South.
Kind of, yeah.
Because it would, assuming the Falcons beat the Panthers this weekend, that would put them ahead of the pack. But I still think Tampa's the best team in the division. But I'm going to give New Orleans the win. So it'll just be kind of a jumbled mess in the top 3. Which I'm kind of rooting for as somebody that likes the league. I want as many teams in November and December being interesting.
Yes. Yeah, you want those games to mean the most.
Yeah. I want to be able to turn on 5 different games, then they'll have something, at stake.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game, Cleveland and Philadelphia. that I'll let you go first on it, but I just call this the Ick Bowl. I think these are the two most underachieving, dysfunctional, outside of the Jets, I guess, dysfunctional teams. Because like Carolina's dysfunctional, but they're not underachieving because they suck.
This almost feels like we're talking about. I know sometimes when one head coach gets fired, you start immediately thinking about who's going to be the next one. And it is rare that you get two head coaches fired in October. I don't know if that's – I know it's happened, but I can't think of a time.
It's interesting. It's interesting, though, because, like, the Philly is dysfunctional by they have good quarterback, bad coach.
Yes.
Cleveland has a good coach and a bad quarterback, and they're kind of in the same – like, Philly's 2-2, so, like, they have some wins. They beat Green Bay week 1. Like, Cleveland's – their season's, like, hanging by a thread. But it feels like they're the same team. Like they just feel gross.
It's very similar. I feel like Cleveland is like close to a mutiny, especially if Deshaun Watson has another. I mean, it's not if he does. Probably when he does have another awful game.
They're gonna keep playing him, dude.
Like
Haslam is not gonna let him ride the bench. Like. I would feel so much differently about the Browns if you put Jameis Winston under center. I feel like they might be the second best team in the AFC North behind the Ravens.
Yeah, but they're in such a hole at the moment. They probably would be the second best team.
They're the worst team in the AFC North, and it's not even that close.
Yeah,
like that's the Deshaun Watson. Outside of Bryce Young was probably the worst, but like name a worse quarterback in the NFL right now. I don't think Minshew's worse.
Yeah, Minshew would be Clay. Those are definitely the three worst quarterbacks.
Yeah, Bryce Young is the only one you could argue. I think that's been worse than Deshaun.
Daniel Jones is probably in the bottom 5, but I don't know. I don't think he's as bad as those guys are.
But Daniel Jones, at least, like their offense is moving the ball. They're horrible in the red zone, but like he at least
somewhat professional.
When I watch the Browns, it's just like there's no rhythm. There's just. I sound like a soccer fan saying this, but like there's no joy in watching the Browns play. It's just like I watch it, I get frustrated sitting there like thinking just like, oh my God, just hit the open dude. Like every play, Deshaun Watson's trying to play like he's 22.
Yeah.
And he hasn't gotten
trying to play like it's Clemson again.
Yeah. And it's like, you can't play like that at 29, which is probably what he's at, like 27, 28.
Yeah.
And, Jalen Hurts has not played well either, but I think there's a lot more dysfunction from other leadership in Philly. It'll be absolutely pivotal that they get A.J. Brown back. Their offense is basically reliant on explosive plays from Saquon and A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those two are going to make everything go. With this game, I can't and could faith pick the Browns. I have to pick the Eagles. This isn't about the Eagles. This is about picking against the Browns. I'm going to go Philly 27-14.
I'm going to go Philly 20-16.
Okay. So you think it's close. I think
it'll be close enough.
I just think Saquon and A.J. Brown make enough explosive plays for him that they'll function. And even though Philly's got some problems on defense, in my opinion, I still don't think Deshaun will move the ball on them.
Does Stefanski get fired? Does the loser of this game, would they be the reddest seat in the NFL? The loser of this, the head coach, I should say.
Yeah, they should, honestly, because this is like the hot seat.
Yeah, Sirianni cannot lose this game.
Yeah, because I think Daboll's safe now.
Needs to win it.
Yeah. And I think Daboll is probably safe, at least I don't think he'll be a mid-season fire anymore.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think Daboll's actually been one of the best coaches in the league, in my opinion. But this game, I agree with you. And Stefanski, I think, is a good coach. I just think that he's in an impossible situation. He probably wants to get fired.
Yeah.
And then he'll go get a job somewhere else and not have to deal with Deshaun Watson, who I don't even know if he wanted. Like, I don't even know if Stefanski wanted Watson. That's the worst part about all of this.
I can't remember, to be honest.
I feel like this is a Haslam thing.
I'm sure it is.
It probably is, and that's why it didn't work because Jimmy Haslam's the second worst owner in the NFL behind, only ahead of
David Tepper.
Yeah. Most intriguing game on the schedule doesn't have as much meaning. Like I said,
the Maryland State Championship.
Yeah, it's an NFC AFC clash, so it doesn't necessarily have as much standing impact, but it's a fun matchup. And arguably the two most electrifying quarterbacks in the game right now.
Oh.
What Lamar Jackson did in Cincinnati last week was one of the best performances I've seen in years.
I was so happy I got to enjoy that game because, usually after a Bears game, I'm so pissed off. Like, I can't hardly watch any other game or I'll have it on as background noise. But when that game was over and, I had to go out and mow the lawn, I was like, wait, I'm going to sit down and watch the rest of this. That was a wild game. And Kevin Harlan, he makes those games so much more fun.
Yeah, a perfect game for that man to call. Because it was just, I watched so much of that because I went against Joe Burrow in fantasy. Rest in peace, me. But I went against him and Jamar Chase, which was the worst. But there was a pass, I want to say Isaiah Likely. It was a touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Where Lamar buys. First of all, he's nearly sacked, and then he scrambles out of a sack to his right. Buys another 4 seconds. So he, like I said, already made a tremendous play just not taking the sack. If he throws it away, it's a good play. This man then throws across his body, hits Isaiah Likely in the end zone. It's just, and Kevin Harlan's call for it was just perfect. And the thing that blew my mind about this game was the fact that Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdowns, and I did not feel like he was the best quarterback in that game. It was Lamar. That's how special.
I thought you froze for a second. I was like,
no.
No, Lamar is playing like he wants the second MVP right now.
Yeah.
It's been a treat to watch. No, this is going to be a really fun game. Washington, for a team, me and you being the Old Souls podcast, we've talked, I think we have mentioned this before, that's a franchise. Now, this iteration of the franchise is different than what we grew up with, of course, but this franchise deserves a winner again. And I say that now, and then in 3 years, I'll be like, I'm so sick of them. But no, it's really cool. At the beginning of the season, Commanders fans would have been happy to be probably 2-3 at this point, and feeling, okay, Jaden, he's coming along. Let's see what we can give the Ravens. They never thought they'd be 4-1, I'm sure. And it just sets up for, just think about all the people. It's just like in this town at the Cubs and White Sox, which is very rare. If they're both good at the same time, it makes that meeting, however many meetings they have in the summer, whether it's 4 or 6, it makes it that much more special because, you get the cross on. I don't know the dynamic in Maryland of how that works, but I'm sure there's families where one brother's a Washington fan and the other brother is a Baltimore fan. And, this week is that much more fun for them. So it's going to be a cool game, I think.
This is the superlative game of the week in terms of, I think the most valuable player leader right now is, I would say, Lamar. I would say the offensive rookie of the year leader. And obviously these are subject to change, Caleb or Josh Allen or whoever could step up in their respective categories. I think Jaden Daniels probably leader right now for offensive rookie of the year. And I think Dan Quinn is the leader for coach of the year. So there's a lot of fun storylines and kind of great players and great coaching efforts to highlight in this game. As electric as Jaden Daniels has been, I think this will be by far the biggest test that they play. I'm going to take the Ravens here after 2 very impressive road wins. I'm going to take the Ravens. I think it's a little bit of a buzzsaw for the Commanders. I'm going to take 27-14.
I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring, but this is not a team that Washington defense that we've been kind of harping on. I know they looked good last week, but I think my high school team might have forced Deshaun Watson into a few turnovers too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to say 34-26 Baltimore. It's hard seeing that Washington defense get enough stops of Lamar Jackson to give Jaden Daniels a chance.
It's definitely a fun game. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. This is probably one of the best games on the schedule so far this year. Which is crazy to think, because who would have thought the Commanders would be must-watch TV?
Yeah, I know. I don't know if they've ever been good at the same time. Oh no, in 2012 they were.
Yeah, because the Ravens won the
They
Super
would have
Bowl
played that year, wouldn't they have? Because
2012, that was 12 years ago. So yeah, intervals of 4, I believe. I think you're right.
It's the biggest game they've played against each other in 12 years. So that's cool.
I think you are right. Yes. Okay. Chargers, Broncos. We'll kind of go through these a little faster. Chargers, I think Justin Herbert, you just hope he's healthy. I think they're a good team. They're kind of one of the more boring teams because I don't have a new take on them per se. I didn't learn a lot from their loss at Pittsburgh. I think they're going to rebound nicely. The bigger question, and I'll ask your opinion on this before I give my pick, because I actually kind of want to, I guess, get your counsel on this. Are the Broncos fake? Because I liked them more than consensus. I like them as like a 7-10 team. I have a hard time believing that they're actually going to be 4-2 after this weekend. But they looked really impressive against Oakland or Las Vegas. What do you make of this team? I don't know how to evaluate the Broncos.
Well, just similar to, I know Seattle came off a little bit, but similar to Seattle in the way that Denver had their defense was not good last year, obviously. And they are much better this year. I think it'll be interesting how Harbaugh, I say Harbaugh is going to really just lean on the running game this week, because you don't always want to test Pat Surtain right now.
No.
Because he's playing out of his mind. They've won 3 in a row. They're coming home. It's a divisional rivalry.
It's a huge game for them.
It's a big game.
I think people discount this game because they don't think Denver's good.
It's a swinging door game for Denver, similar to Seattle, that if you get past this big division rival of yours, now you're 4-2. You're in the mix. In a conference that we talked about last week, where that 7th seed is like an open invitational right now. Yeah. Anybody who wants it can have it.
They're almost halfway. They're almost halfway to the win total they'd probably need to get a 7 seed.
Yeah.
If they win this game, which is crazy because Bo Nix has had 2 good games and 3 really bad games. One of those he won. So we know the Broncos can win in different ways. They really every one they've had, they've been shut down defensively. They shut Pittsburgh down too. Yeah. The only offense they just didn't really shut down was Seattle's in week 1.
Yeah.
But they're playing one of the best units in the league. Like you mentioned, led by Surtain. So I'm convinced this game is going to be low scoring. I don't see Bo Nix duplicating what he did against the Raiders. I think he beat up a bad defense last week.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Broncos, but it's going to be ugly. I'm going to go 17-14 only because I think these are kind of evenly matched teams right now. I love the Broncos defense. I like this game. I think it's just because it's at Mile High. I'm going to give it to Denver.
I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game. It's going to be close. I think I'm going to have the Chargers win this one 20-13.
Yeah. I do think by December, the Chargers will be a better team than Denver is.
Yes. Yeah.
I
for the Chargers too, because they got to bounce back after 2 tough losses. So
yeah. So yeah, they were because the last time we saw them was against Kansas City. Sorry, that was like part of the hurricane vortex that I just completely missed.
Yes, didn't
I
happen.
forgot that game happened. I still always get surprised that Rashee Rice is like gonna miss like 2 months.
Wait, what happened to him?
Yeah, no, I'm like, what? Mahomes did what? I found that out on Tuesday after it happened. I was like,
Yeah, Mahomes killed the guy. I think
yeah,
you should lay low.
try
for
to
a
take his
little
own
bit.
teammate out. Damn it. But yeah, so we disagree on this game, and then the Colts Titans game. I think
Yes,
we disagreed on.
that game didn't matter.
Uh,
Great game in 1975.
yeah, this is the Old Souls podcast. We'll probably do an episode on this matchup in 6 months. Not
Yeah,
this.
we do have to do the. Oh no, that was the Dolphins and the Raiders. I was gonna say we need to do the
Heidi Bowl.
no the.
That was the Jets. I think.
No, I was gonna say the Immaculate Reception, but that's not the one.
Yeah. This game's in
It's the one
Vegas.
where Stabler hit Van Egan in the end zone, or no, it was Davis against.
Was
the
that
Dolphins.
was that goes to the post or
No,
that
that
was
goes to the
Casper?
post. We should know this. We should know this.
I know he hit Casper because that's why they call it goes to the post. But
that was against Baltimore. This was
Was
in
it?
'74 against the Dolphins.
the Raiders are the all-time team. When
Sea
it
of
comes to,
Hands. The Sea of Hands game.
Yeah, the Raiders are like the all-time team when it comes with games with names.
Games at names, yeah.
Yeah, but in this game, I'm going to name the Steelers the winner, and I'm going to do that because I think the Raiders are the second worst team in the league. They had every opportunity to blow that game against Denver wide open, and the opposite happened. Denver blew it wide open against them.
They were lucky Cleveland didn't beat them.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson was horrible in that game. Go figure.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they won that game. I don't know how this team beat the Ravens, to be honest with you.
I know.
I
think the Ravens are kicking themselves about that for months.
I don't have a take about Justin Fields. I still don't think he's that good. But I'll say that Pittsburgh's defense is going to just suffocate this Raiders offense. And if Devontae Adams probably won't play in this game, I assume, if he's even on the team at that point, I'm going to take the Steelers here 21-13. Low scoring game again.
I'm going to go Steelers 23-10. I guess the other night was the first time and I didn't even watch the whole game because I fell asleep at halftime because it started so late. Fields, and it's funny just like seeing the Steelers fans on Twitter talking about Fields, oh, his receivers aren't getting separation, this sort of, I was like, oh my God, this is the exact same thing Bears fans said for the last 3 years. People, for anybody who doesn't know, receiver separation is based on when the quarterback throws them the ball. So it's not like that guy is not getting the ball. We're going to average his separation, because the only way you know if a receiver is getting separation is if they're the target.
So wait, are you saying that just like quarterback sacks, like sacks and separation are both quarterback stats?
Yes, that's a quarterback stat.
Yeah, because sacks, like we finally have come around. I think everybody now agrees. I play in a fantasy league now that penalizes quarterbacks for taking sacks, by the way.
Oh,
and
really?
So it's the coolest thing ever because it's like it's a negative play that
Yes.
half the time it's the quarterback's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And also quarterbacks that evade sacks are better.
Yes.
So like if Lamar Jackson evades a sack and throws
Lamar
it away,
Jackson's pressure to sack ratio is like 10%, which is ridiculous.
Better offenses typically avoid sacks.
Yes.
So Justin Fields takes a lot of them. My main question about it's most about the Steelers. I think we both agree the Steelers are going to win this game. But I still think they're better if Russell Wilson comes back. Is that crazy to say?
Well, I hope Russell Wilson can come back in like week 10, and I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I don't think Fields is great. I don't know if Russell Wilson's that much better, but I think their offense would be a little bit more.
They have to try it at some point.
But they keep winning games.
Because if they keep winning, and if they're still close, but like they can't, like I don't even know what's their point total right now. Like they can't keep doing what they've been doing on
They're going to be the 7th seed, aren't they?
Oh, I'm sure they are. They're 20. They've only scored 92 points in 5 games.
That's not good.
And I think they might even have a defensive touchdown in there, if I'm not mistaken.
So basically, the Steelers' defense is really the most valuable unit in the entire league.
Yes, I mean
they've won them 4 games.
Yeah, they have a great matchup this week because they'll destroy a very lackluster Raiders offense.
Yeah. They've won them 3 games, but the other thing about the Steelers, just
revenge
like the
game this week.
Yeah, just like the Seahawks, though. Last 2 weeks they've lost. What were we saying before that?
Revenge game. Justin Fields versus Luke Getsy.
Wow. Only a Bears fan would think of that. Wow. Gosh.
I think that's all we have to say about that one.
Yeah, this game, we spent too much time on this game already. This game.
This should be.
We talked about Commanders Ravens being the game of the week, but this one's obviously awesome too.
Yeah, this is the Fox America's game of the week.
Cowboys coming off a big win in prime time, and I can just tell you now, Detroit's going to beat them.
Yeah,
Detroit's better.
Dallas is going to lay an egg.
I think Detroit is better pretty much in every way right now.
Who should we want to win this game?
Dallas.
Yeah, but then it just clouds the wild card board.
Well, Detroit would be in the middle of that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
Minnesota right now is running away with the NFC North.
That's true.
Like, as a Packers fan, we lost to Minnesota already. We get Detroit twice, so I would much rather just Detroit come down in the mud with us and come play the wild card Big Ten. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Detroit.
You're from last place. No, I'm joking.
And the Cowboys, by the way, so they're 3-2 on the year. Both of their wins are on the road, or 3 of their 3 of their wins are on the road. They're 0-2 at home. I think they're going to make it 0-3 at home. I think Detroit's going to win this game.
Detroit should have beaten them last year at home.
I do think Detroit. It's going to be high scoring. I think it's close. I'm going to go overtime. Lions walk down the field just like they did against the Rams. 34-28, like Montgomery gets another walk-off touchdown. That's how I see this game kind of unfolding.
Yeah, no, I think Detroit wins too.
I think Dallas will keep this close though.
I don't think it'll be high scoring though because Detroit's they weren't great against Seattle, but they have been very good. And Dallas's offense is just
missing something.
I know they played Pittsburgh the other night, but they just don't seem to be clicking.
They've played. I mean, Dallas in their defense, the only bad defense they've really played this year is the Giants, and even the Giants have had kind of impressive stretches of defense, which is weird to say. So
they held Seattle to 20 points.
Yeah, and that's the one Achilles heel with Detroit. I think Hutchinson's outstanding, but I think they have some. I still think they have some weaknesses.
He might be defensive player of the year at this point.
It's either him or Watt, right?
Or TJ Watt. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think we both think Detroit wins. But you never know with desperate teams. That's my only angle in this is Dallas. And the other thing is Dallas might see an opportunity if Philly loses. This could be a huge opportunity for them to get back in the NFC.
And if Washington loses.
Yep. Which I think both are possible, especially the Washington side. So this is going to be one of those games. If you are a fan of a team in the NFC, this is probably the game of the week right here. Let's just keep this quick.
Wait, why is this so late in the day?
Great question. They made this a 4:25 game. Oh, and by the way, I think oh, come on. Thankfully, I have Sunday tickets, so it doesn't matter. But Lions Cowboys is on Fox. Falcons Panthers is on Fox. So people here don't get to watch Lions Cowboys. People here get to watch Falcons versus Panthers.
Andy Dalton again.
This is why flex scheduling teams like this regular game, there's no reason this game should be at 4:25.
Oh no.
I get the case if you're in Florida in September, putting a game in the late afternoon just for the heat. I get that. But this is stupid. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Atlanta by 10. I don't I still don't know what to think. Like, is Atlanta really for real? Like, even last week they scored a bunch of points. They don't have that many explosive plays. Kadarrell Hodge, I guess, had that walk-off touchdown, but I don't think they're a super explosive offense, but Carolina's so bad. I'm going to take the Falcons 27-17.
I'll take it'll be a little bit bigger score or a bigger point differential. I'm going to have Atlanta 30-14, I should say.
Okay. Let's move off that game. I don't want to talk about you. Bengals, Giants.
Sunday night.
Yeah, what the crazy part about this is if you had told me like, oh, Bengals, Giants Sunday night, the Giants are going to be playing for their season while the Bengals are cruising. And the Bengals the Bengals are 1-4.
Yeah.
And the Giants have the better record. They're feeling pretty damn good in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but like I think the Giants are really going to give them a hard game too. And I think if Malik Neighbors plays, I think it's his over-under for receiving yards should be like 140.
Oh, my God, yeah. I got
the secondary for Cincinnati is awful.
Oh, they're garbage.
Their defense, I think they might have the worst unit in the league. It's bad. And Daniel Jones, like that, the question is, can Daniel Jones not screw this up? It's there for you. Like you could have your career game this week on Sunday Night Football, and the narrative changes around you. You get your team back to 3-3, right in the hunt. We think Dallas is going to lose. We think Washington's going to lose. You're going to be a game out of first after week 6, and you're feeling good, and you got a weapon, and Dayball's feeling like the whole conversation around the Giants is about to change, possibly. Vice versa. The team with all this offensive talent with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and blah, 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 blah. They lose this game, their season's pretty much over.
Done.
And they're all healthy. Minus T. Higgins, he's always hurt. But I'm going to take the Bengals because I think they're the better team. But I've been saying this like the last 3 weeks. They keep losing anyway. I'm going to take them in a close game, 20-17, and it's because Daniel Jones like trips over himself on the game-tying drive, and they miss a field goal by like a yard.
All right. So this will be my prediction. I have the Bengals winning by 1, 28-27.
That means you just do not feel good.
They score a touchdown. The Giants do with like say 10 seconds left.
Missed the extra point.
Dable goes for 2. And Daniel Jones bobbles the snap.
If that happens, like if that were to actually happen, you and me would be like freaking out, going like, no. We know this. We know football. We know ball.
I saw it. I saw it with my eyes.
Yeah. I need to get the lottery ticket now. But yeah, so we're both taking Cincinnati, but kind of really close, not very comfortable. But I want Cincinnati to win, I think, just because, number one, we do not need the Giants also clogging up the NFC wildcard.
Yes.
The other thing is I want the AFC to be kind of interesting here. And, like, I want the league is in a good place if you have Joe Burrow, like, involved.
Yes.
And I'm worried that, like, if they fall to, like, 1-8, they're like, oh, they'll make up an injury to sit Burrow for the rest of the season. And just
it's Jake Browning.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that. Last game of the week, the Bills are reeling, but so are the Jets.
Yeah. So who reels the realest? And back-to-back primetime games in MetLife.
Yeah, and last year Josh Allen gave the Jets a win.
He did.
Basically gave it to
them.
Yeah, and that was the most frustrating Josh Allen game too, because it's like you didn't have to. You like. Aaron Rodgers got hurt on the first series. You were going against Zach Wilson the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't screw it up. Just take your points when you get to the red zone. Like settle for field goals. You'll get there. If you get to 21 points, you win.
Right.
And he gave the game up. That being said, I have such a hard feeling. I think the Bills more lost the last 2 games because they were just outclassed. I
Mhm.
don't think it was something they gave away. I don't think it was poorly coached, or I think they
Yeah,
just had less talent than the Texans and the
it's
Ravens.
the transition year for them as we were talking
And
about.
it was a reality check for them because it was like, yeah, we're not a top team in the AFC right now. That's okay. We all expected that. I think the Bills make a statement here, 30-20. And I think the Jets, I think you're going to get the fans booing at halftime.
Yeah, I also think the Bills win fairly comfortably. I'm gonna say 31-17. And we're talking about on Tuesday morning, is is Rodgers totally done? Like, is can he get much worse for him than this sort of a thing?
I doubt he can.